Welcome to the Cherrywood podcast with me, Rachel Burridge.
And the handsome and delightful Simon Burridge, which is me.
Okay.
That's all right.
Jennie Lichfield, anything else?
You could say one of your businesses, one of your many businesses if you want.
Jennie Lichfield, Circle of Life Ceremonies.
Cool.
Perfect. Here we go.
It's weird, like we're so used to having clapperboards and stuff, but the amount of people that go, "Oh, what do I do with it?" It's really strange.
There we are then. Jennie, nice to have you over.
Thank you for inviting me.
No problem at all. First time we're using these mics, so we're going to be...
This is a new setup.
Yeah.
For us.
Exciting times.
And I'm the only one that knows if they work because I'm the only one with the headphones on, so perfect.
So we'll just have a
you
chat,
can
and if it
Yeah,
isn't,
yeah.
you'll have to give us a sign.
It's all right, we
Okay.
got the backup mics, which will get us over it. Right, Jennie, we've got that sign there. And it falls off every time. It's a part of our thing. Why? I don't know. We want you to give us a rough idea from now how long you think it'll last before it falls off.
What with having no previous experience of
Exactly.
this at all,
Exactly.
I'm going to estimate 3.5 minutes.
3.5. Well, you never know.
She has no
Okay.
confidence in our
No,
sign.
she doesn't know. 3.5's not a bad shout. Not a bad shout.
I startle easily,
Oh no!
so I'm going to jump out of my seat.
I want to make sure I've got talk down at
Yes, 1, 2, 3, 4.
my talk again.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Now I've got you.
Okay.
Perfect. That's better.
Okay.
Right, okay. Tell us about yourself.
Yeah, no
Here we
pressure.
go.
Yeah, it feels like the therapist's couch.
That's what we should call it, Cherrywood.
therapy.
Yeah.
Cherrywood therapy.
So I used to be a talking therapist.
Oh, right, okay.
And I have a special chair. So when you have therapy clients to come and see you, obviously you need to think about the furniture. And so I bought this very particular chair and it lived in my office. And of course, we called it the trance chair. So when you say, do come and have a seat in the trance chair, it automatically makes the client think that they're going to fall into a trance, which as a hypnotherapist, that's what you want.
Yeah.
And but when I wasn't working, lots of friends would come and visit me because I had an office in the house. And my best friend would not sit in this chair. She was so convinced that she would go into a trance, and she was kind of very adverse to that. But the power of the word.
Oh, there you go. You've had hypnotherapy, haven't you? You loved it, didn't
I
you?
loved it. I thought it was
That's why she's still with me.
Ah.
You know.
And is it something that you're able to tell us about why you had it?
Yeah, it was more to find sort of myself, really, because I've obviously had, I wouldn't say issues in the past, but it's just making my head clearer more than anything to make sure I knew exactly what path I wanted to follow, where I was going, that sort of thing. And just to have some clarification, really. But I loved it. I think the lady that I used, she was amazing. And because some people are quite skeptical of, oh, is it going to work? Is it not going to work? But I just went with an open mind and said, let's see where we're going to go with this. And she was really good. The first session it's weird because people think hypnotherapy, oh, you're going to be put into a trance, like you said, and put to sleep and everything. But she didn't. You knew exactly what she was saying. You were present in the room, everything like that. But when I sort of finished my session, I was in floods of tears and I just kept saying, oh, I'm so sorry. She said, no, but that's a good thing. That's what we want to happen. So you can actually deal with this situation, or whatever you think the problem is, we can actually deal with that now. Even if you didn't realise you had a problem, there obviously is something there that you want to deal with subconsciously, and we're going to deal with it. So, and she was really good. Really good. So.
It's a very natural state, isn't it? You actually go in and out of that in the morning when you're waking up and when you're going to sleep. I first had hypnotherapy a very long time ago when I was in my early 20s. And
10 years.
Me and my mum, so I smoked back in the olden days when it was fashionable. And my mum and I both smoked, and she shouldn't have done really for medical reasons. So we both decided to go to a hypnotherapist, and he was a lovely, lovely gentleman in Gillingham. And he was...
And there we go.
She might have been spot on.
That might be spot on.
That
might be spot
I
on.
told you I start always.
Sorry. That's it now.
That's it. No more surprises for you.
Okay, that's good. But this gentleman was also a children's entertainer.
Oh, right. Oh, that's a bit of a
And
difference, isn't it?
he booked us in for a 45-minute appointment. So we both arrived, and it was the price of a month's worth of cigarettes.
Wow.
So we figured it was worth a punt.
Yeah.
And he booked us in for 45 minutes. He spent 30 minutes telling us jokes. And 5 minutes, Mum went in the hallway and he did me, and then vice versa. And then 5 minutes to write the check out, which was how you paid people in those days. And neither of us smoked ever since.
Oh, my
How
God.
weird.
Yeah, he just literally took 5 minutes. He went sort of ibbity-bobbity-boo, and that was it. It was done. And neither of us smoked ever since.
Ibbity-bobbity-boo.
Or whatever,
Do you ever,
whatever it was.
Do you ever get any
So
sort of like little cravings now and then, or is there certain triggers? That you
I
think,
love
"Ooh."
the smell of it.
Mm.
And I think most non-smokers or people who've given up don't like it.
Mm.
But I think, it's really nice. But not to the point where I would want to do it again. So no, completely. Made me into a non-smoker straight away.
Literally like that.
Is
So,
there
yeah.
any way we can break down the ibbity-bobbity-boo? Do you know what it is exactly you do?
I only remember, like you said, I remember being totally present. So he wasn't doing anything that I was uncomfortable with, but he put a cigarette in your lips. So and it was foul. It was really disgusting and horrid. And that's really what you associate. So that's what you take away.
Of course.
And he pushed me backwards into the chair that was behind me. So there was a physical shock.
Yeah, that's what it tends to be.
And
Yeah.
often, you can, and it's called a pattern interrupt. So you kind of interrupt the neural pathways that are happening. And so that can be really helpful. So when I was hypnotherapist, you get people to stand up and hop on one leg, or I asked somebody to sing the national anthem once, and she was so old, she said, "God save the King."
Oh, which is actually quite
yeah.
relevant for
Which
today.
now it's working.
Yeah.
Come back round full
Goodness.
circle.
Wow.
So that was my experience of hypnotherapy when I was very young.
Mm.
And obviously that sort of shaped probably why I wanted to incorporate that later on in my life.
Because I know they do sometimes. They obviously do, like you said, like the shock therapy
Mhm.
to it. But they do some smells, don't they? If you're sort of like, if it's something that you're eating, like let's say chocolate, for example, and you say, "Oh, I don't want to be addicted to chocolate or whatever," you're then they're taking you and putting almost a bad taste or a bad smell in your mouth. So when you put that chocolate in your mouth, you're almost physically sick with it and saying, "I can't do it." So then again, it's all about
Mhm.
shock and smell and taste and everything like that as well.
Yeah. I used to do, so I got into the fitness world probably in the mid 2000s, about 2006. And so part of that, I would do a lot of weight loss boot camps and things like that, and to help people lose weight. So I think so you can stop people from eating something, like it takes a couple of minutes, literally. It's really easy to do.
I guess.
And so I would get, a room full of
Thanks for that.
20 women. And I think What's-Its was the funniest one. Somebody just really ate too many What's-Its.
Yeah. I do
That person
hate
needs to speak
it.
to our daughter.
Very
yeah.
Oh,
She hates it, doesn't she?
Shit,
She
if
hates what's it.
like if our little boy is chasing her around the house with What's-Its or he's eating What's-Its, she's nearly physically sick because she hates the texture on her fingers and stuff like that.
Okay.
So, sorry, carry on.
So, well, you want to hook that into something that she doesn't want to eat.
That's very true.
So you kind of put the two together.
Yeah.
So, and it's helpful if you can use it to your advantage. So if she was overindulging in chocolate or something that was unhealthy for her, you could use that as a mechanism. So you can use mechanisms like that to help you. So the same way that we would use touch. So when my children were little, they're in their 20s now. So when my children were little, I would pat my son on the shoulder, say, "Oh, you're a good lad. You've done well today. Pat, pat, pat." And, how did you get on at school? "Oh, I did well, teacher." "Oh, well done, son. Pat, pat, pat." So you kind of pat on the shoulder over and over again. So every time you're building in that positive.
Yeah.
So then, okay, son, so, your bedroom needs tidying. Are you going to do that now or after tea? Pat, pat, pat. And so he
And it
then
works.
becomes very receptive to the idea that he's going to be made to tidy up his bedroom. So something he doesn't really want to do, but you've kind of
He's
built
getting-
in this kind of positive. So it's much better received.
Yeah.
And you can do it in a
Try that
business context as well. So you'd have to choose something that wasn't too annoying, but let's say you can tap your finger on the table or a click of a pen, but that's maybe going to get people's nerves, but something mild like that. So as a therapist, I used to scratch my arm. So you gather everybody around the table, say it's a business meeting, and everybody okay? Yes, we're all fine. Tap, 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 or whatever signal you're going to set up. And then you say, right, so did everybody get the agenda? Yes, we did. Tap, tap, tap. And then, right, first thing on the agenda, everybody's kind of happy, tap, tap, tap. And so then when you get to the point in the meeting where actually what you want to say, you know it's not going to be quite so well received, or there's going to be some resistance, you can set off the tap, 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 and it's kind of already been built in.
That's amazing.
So
like
these people,
subconsciously,
yeah.
Weird,
thinking.
So that's why when you sit down and say, "Oh, hi, did you find it okay?"
Yeah.
It was easy because you gave me the direction.
Yeah.
Blah blah. So, and I would scratch my arm because it's very unobtrusive. So things like that, you could say that, "Oh, that's never going to work," and maybe
trying it on
maybe
her.
it doesn't.
Simon, can you load that dishwasher? I will later. Tap, tap, tap.
If I just kept getting like all of this,
You're just going to get tapped.
Yeah. Or because when you've got the children in the car, you know, when they're little, obviously you're taking them school runs and what have you, then it's very easy to pat them on the leg because they're in the passenger seat. So that was another time when it's very easy to do a
do
very
that,
maternal gesture.
Yeah.
Not
So
all the time.
deliberately do it when there's a real positive. Because then when you're delivering some bad news, which that intimate space of your car is actually quite a good place to say, look, you know, Nanny's not well this weekend. We can't go after all. We're going to have to put it off till next weekend. Pat, pat, pat. And then if it doesn't work, it's not the end of the world. But my teacher always used to say, if you can stack the deck in your favour, then why wouldn't you? So you just don't know.
Because I've heard about the elastic band trick as well on your wrist. So you're sort of trying to, or a hair bubble, whatever it is, you know, that you want to use. And every time you have a craving or an urge or something, you just have to slap it, and it's relating that tiny little bit of pain.
Must be a similar thing, isn't it?
To what you're doing, and then you sort of almost think, and then you won't need it in the end because you link the pain that you've already had to whatever you're craving or whatever you're going to try and eat and stuff like that. You link it without even doing it. So you go together and you think, no, I don't actually need it. So but it's all about willpower. I don't know if I've got enough willpower for that sort of thing.
It's not very positive, is it?
Oh, sorry.
Tap, tap, tap.
Tap, tap, tap. You can do it on yourself. So if you use your knuckles, and so ultimately you can set yourself up with a little power button. And so this is very helpful if you're doing something that's like a presentation, or you know, standing up in front of people where you might get nervous, or a job interview or something. So you can use your knuckles, and because then you could fire it off without really anybody seeing what you're doing. I've got my hands under the table now, so it's really easy. So bearing in mind you've got 4 knuckles across your fingers, you could set the last one on your index fingers to be kind of your power button. But you've got 3 others as well. So you could say to yourself, okay, well, every time I remember a time when I felt really comforted, you know, kind of cozy at home, or, you know, really secure. And so keep pressing your little finger, say, the knuckle on your little finger. And then it hooks that in. So just keep thinking lots of different memories and keep firing it off. And so your next knuckle, you could choose a time when you felt about laughing, you know, when you really, really laughed your head off. Or a time when you felt really loved would be another one. And then a time when you felt really powerful, like you could achieve anything. You know, like when you passed an exam that you didn't think you were going to pass and you came running out going, way. Then that. And so all of those get stacked up onto that knuckle. And so then when you're at a pressure point in time, you can just apply pressure to that knuckle, and your physiology will bring about all of those feelings.
Amazing, isn't it?
So I noticed on your steps, you've got some mindset.
We have.
Quotes.
They were there before us, but we kept them there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
What did you
maybe that's subconsciously when we're walking up the stairs, maybe we don't realise it, but we're taking it in.
The sad thing with me is I can't even tell you what they say.
But I'm sure you do.
I've probably read it couple of times, but I can't tell you what it says up those stairs.
Okay. Well,
Have you remembered
the
it
first
already?
the first few, I was busy looking and trying to find my feet, and we were in that very small space together. But the last one is you become what you think.
Yeah.
And that's absolutely true. So that's how you can really create your own universe, is what you're thinking. And so your body, so the way you think will affect your body. So if I'm thinking kind of very depressed and low thoughts, my body language tends to go
Slump,
down, smaller, it all kind of turns in.
Yeah.
And obviously vice versa. So if I'm really, really positive, then everything goes up and open. So that's why it's almost impossible to go dancing and not have fun. Because when you go dancing, all of your gestures are really big and you're using your whole body. And there we go. There we go. And so the way you think affects your body, but equally what you're doing with your body affects your mind. So it's a two-way street. So even if your mind is not that happy, you can go dancing and it will affect your mood. So you can harness that. So that mindset that you've got on your stairs is really appropriate, because you can deliberately harness that naturally occurring process.
Which is what the gym does as well,
benefit.
isn't it?
It is, exactly, because you're using your whole body.
Yeah. And it's so
It's
good
good for depression.
mental health and everything like that.
Mm-hmm. Have you found that in your gym work, that it's helped your mindset?
It does, but it's still like walking through lava or walking through treacle trying to get there. Once you're in there and you've done it, it's good.
Okay.
Yeah, it's that.
It's
It's
still
that
that
step.
mindset. Or if I have to miss a day or miss 2 days because just actually can't get there, due to being too busy, then the longer I leave it, the harder it is to get there.
Okay.
Which is weird, isn't it?
So does it come back to that willpower then, do you think?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I can talk myself out of it quite easily.
Okay.
I think.
But I do enjoy it when I'm there.
Yeah, that's the thing. When we actually go to the gym and you're physically in the building, you think, I'm here now. I am going to do my work. And it is. I mean, we used to do, 40 minutes, and now we're up to, we've done like an hour and a half before, where we sort of like, I didn't realise the time. We were just carrying on doing all the different equipment and doing the different bits
We
that we
aim
need
for 4
to do.
days a week, don't we?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is good.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's like you said, it's getting there and you think, I've just got to put the washing on. I've just got to do this. I've just got to do that. But when you've got to sort of completely think, no, I'm going to the gym. And when you have that in your mind, you say, no, I'm going to the gym. And then that's it. You go to the gym.
I get days where I just can't lift or move what I could do days before. But now I've just accepted it. It's going to be one of those days, and I just drop the weights down a bit lower and carry on. And then I feel better. Before, I was getting annoyed with the fact that I couldn't do what I was doing. So then I've put a negative thought on the gym. Do you know what I mean?
Yes, yeah.
The next time I turn up the gym,
exactly.
I've gone to the gym, I'm like, couldn't do this last time. But it just sometimes depends what you've eaten, what time of day it is.
Indeed.
I work nights, so it could be anything.
But if you're doing,
and now I just tell myself it's one of them days. Drop the weights down a bit, still do the exercises, but lower weight, and then.
But if you're doing 4 days in a row, it could be that 4th day that you get there and you're going, your body, like I said, your body's just going, right, I've had enough now. I can't physically push this. But then if you drop it down, you're still doing something, aren't you? So but I do like the gym.
Most of the population don't do anything. So, your street ed, we were talking on the way over just about kind of longevity and how one reaches an age where actually it's about not necessarily always smashing your personal best, but it's about living a life that I'm going to be able to carry on for as long as possible. And
but we try and encourage that in the kids as well, don't we? Because we don't want them. Today's society, everyone is on their phone, or you see so many people walking around that don't actually look up. They look constantly down at their phone. So we try and encourage the kids to do. I mean, both of them do dancing, both of them do cricket. The little one does football, so we try and get them to do as much physical activity as possible. And I mean, we loved going on bike rides in the summer and stuff like that as well. So it is.
Our 13-year-old would go to the gym.
Oh,
wouldn't she? If she was old enough, she'd go to the gym straight away.
She's got one at school, but you have to be a certain age to actually use it. So I think it's 6th form onwards or something like that. And you pay like we do, like £20 a month, and she can use it whenever she wants. And she can go before school, after school. And she said, I can't wait to do that, Mum. So I think they get little lessons during the week, don't they? Of different activities they all do as a class in the gym, so they get little tasters almost.
But
yeah, she can't wait.
her self-motivation's amazing. Like, remember in the summer, I built them a gym in lockdown. Not a gym. I built them a climbing frame in lockdown in a garden, and it's got monkey bars. It's got everything. Every day she went on those monkey bars this summer.
In the summer, yeah.
And she sort of did sit-ups from the monkey bars. She had a routine.
Yeah.
It wasn't pushed. She just did it herself. She's like that, though, with everything, isn't she? She's unbelievable. Don't have to make her do her homework. Straight in, straight up, does it.
Like she
straight
knows,
A student.
She knows if she's got something on the weekend, if she's got something on at the weekend, she says, right, I've crammed in all my homework now, like during the week, so I can actually enjoy my weekend. Or, you know, I'm thinking, oh my God, you're so sensible.
Yeah. Or when I grow up, I want to be like you.
Absolutely. I would have been like, I'll have my week to do a little bit of homework, still have my fun weekend, then panic on Sunday night like I haven't done my homework.
Yeah.
That's all.
Bare minimum for me.
Yeah.
Whatever would just get me over the line, I would do when I was a kid.
But yeah, she is amazing, that girl. Bless her. Anyway, sorry.
And what age is she?
She's 13, just turned 13. Yeah,
Okay.
so she's year 8 at secondary school. But she's one of these people, you know, these type of people that are good at one thing, like she's good at English, she's good at this, and she's very academic. So we always thought, oh, she'd be rubbish at like the arty side, or she's not going to be very creative. But no, she smashed that as well.
She's good at everything.
There's
That's
nothing
nice.
really.
I'm
that
annoyingly
she can-
proud of her.
Yeah, good for you. So you should
Annoyingly
be.
proud of her.
She is good at everything.
Oh.
Even languages, she went into secondary school and she went, oh, I've got to do German. She went, I'm not looking forward to German. You know, I did French at junior school and I know a little bit of French. So she said, I'm not looking forward to German. And then within a week, she was like, oh, I'm getting 100% on this test and 100% on that test. I'm like, oh my God.
She's taking German on now, isn't she?
She is, yeah. Bless her.
Right, Jenny.
Yeah,
Right.
sorry.
So you're not doing hypnotising
No,
now.
not anymore.
So
no.
all the stuff we've just discussed is actually not what you're here for. No,
I think it's
we like to lead up to how you got to where you are.
yeah. I think it's important that I think what one does, and I've been around long enough, I suppose, you know, that all these things kind of make up who you are now.
Without a doubt. Yes, that's exactly what this podcast's about. How did you get to where you are?
Yeah. And I think that perhaps more so now, life is that we don't generally have one job. We don't have one job for life anymore. You know, my parents were of the generation that, you know, you had a job, you were an accountant or whatever, and you did that forever. So I think not only do we not live like that anymore, but I think now most people don't only have one job at a time. And so we're all kind of multifaceted. And you know, sort of 20 years ago or whatever, it might have been a side hustle or you might have had a part-time job. But I think now it's a lot more about monetizing your personality.
Absolutely.
And so I think really that's all I've done in the last 20 years is just monetize my personality. And people say, oh, you've done so many things like being a therapist and, you know, being in the fitness world and spiritual caregiving, if you like. Then it seems like you've done lots of different things, but actually I've just been me.
Yeah. I'm
You know.
exactly the same as that.
Yeah.
You know, I've done, you know, I was a mechanical engineer. My mum and dad said, you got to get an apprenticeship. Okay. And I like it. I love engineering. But I've also been Charlton's mascot. I've written comedies, you know.
In a band. Well,
been in a
several
band,
bands.
yeah. I'm bass guitarist in a band. That's the real me. You know, that's the real me. Doing this is the real me.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and like you say, you end up turning it into a job you love.
Yeah.
You know? Do I love engineering? I like it when I've solved a massive problem, you know, and then I'll touch my index finger, plumb that in, program that one in.
Yeah, get that on your power button.
But and it's the thing is, I can't knock engineering. It's given me a life for 30 odd years. You know, it's kept a roof over my head for 30 years.
But you're good at it though. I personally look at you and think actually you are really good because you bring some of your stuff home and there's nothing that you can't fix. I mean, we had a problem with the sink the other day, so he was on the phone, he was saying, right, do this. I was like, yep. And every time
if only you had followed the instructions.
yeah, we did have a little argument halfway through. But it's you bring that that mindset and that skill home with you. So you do. I mean, you can fix anything. Cars, anything that goes wrong with a house, you can fix it. So you are good at it.
I get there eventually. That's the thing. I get there eventually. But yeah. So
tell me about being a mascot for Charlton.
Oh, right. Okay.
Oh, she's like the interviewer now, isn't she?
It's good. We'll have to have her in every week. It's a lot easier. So I've been a Charlton fan since 1987. And I've got friends that I've gone to school with that are also Charlton fans. One of my friends happened to be going out with a girl whose mum was in charge of the mascots at Charlton. And Charlton have got two mascots. They've got a dog and a cat. And this was about mid-2000s, 2005, something like that. And Charlton is still in the Premier League then. And he said, do you want to be mascot? I said, because I used to joke and used to say, I like to be on the pitch just to wind the away fans up as a mascot. I'd like to do it just once for a laugh, just to wind them all up, And then a few years passed, he said, do you want to do the mascot job tonight on the game? And I said, no, I don't. He said, it's on telly and it's against Tottenham. I went, I'll be there. And funny enough, because you're doing a lot for Demelza, aren't you?
Mm.
The first top I had was a Demelza top on because they were
was it like the spotty one?
So he didn't have a Charlton kit on, he had the Demelza top. And had a good laugh, had a cough, sorry. Had a good laugh and done well, and they liked it, enjoyed me being there. That sounds wrong, doesn't it? But got on fine. The game was good, and but there was a kid there, and he had cancer, right? And I can't tell you if that's the first game or the second game or something like that. I feel like it was the first game. It's all rolls into one now. It was definitely an evening game, and this kid could just about walk and stuff. It was sad, and put him on the pitch and everything. Had the best time of his life. And then they asked if I'd come back Saturday, and I enjoyed it, but I also enjoyed helping, giving these kids a thing. And then the Saturday came along, and this kid had passed.
He wasn't there.
Mm.
He had gone, and he rolls in another kid, similar thing.
Yeah,
and that's what was happening. It was brilliant, but it was like a sad conveyor belt of ill kids.
Mm.
And that's what made me do it for 10 years. Did it for 10 years. I did the mascot Grand National. We had to. Oh,
I remember that.
yeah, I started going out of you. And I'll come back. I hold my glasses, Rach. I'll come back. She'd broken them. She dropped them, trodden on them.
Oh.
The same day she wound my window down on the car, that broke. I'm like, oh my God, this girl's going to cost me a fortune.
Good job you're an engineer.
Yeah.
Fix things. Match made in heaven.
So yeah, Charlton were in the Premier League when I started, and then dropped 2 divisions by the time I'd finished. So I wasn't that much of a mascot, but I just used to be horrible, didn't I? As a mascot, I used to grab people's scarves, stick them under my crutch, and do that. Do that with them.
You used to call like the
I used to
kids
call
down,
little kids
didn't
down
you?
from the top stand. This little kid would come running down, and as he got to me, I'd walk off. But they loved it though. It was a bit of character. And then they got taken over by a different company. The mascots got changed, and that's when I decided to stop it.
Mm-hmm.
But then they did a petition to bring back the original mascot. So the original mascots are back again, but they've all had facelifts. Floyd and Harvey at Charlton,
You
yeah.
said it stank inside there, didn't you? 'Cause
Oh,
was
it used
all
to
hot
stink.
and
It
sweaty.
your sweat and your sweat would
Like a really big boxing glove.
Yeah.
Oh, honestly. Right, so what would happen is you'll go on half hour before kickoff, and then the players will come onto the pitch, and you'll be there for the players coming onto the pitch and everything like that. And then think about what's happened. Oh, bear with me. Hopefully these mics are working, because my mic is just falling down the top from my backup. Well, I know mine's working. I can hear it. Anyway, then you'll get undressed, watch the game, and then 10 minutes before half time, get back in it. But this stuff was wringing wet. It stunk of piss. Stunk of piss.
Why?
I don't know. I think your sweat naturally would smell of it, I assume.
Oh, this
But-
is gross.
Yeah, so you'll get back in this
Was there anybody else wearing the costume in between?
very rarely. Very rarely.
So it was just you.
Yeah.
Well, we know the problem now. Then.
Well, they told me to use it like a wetsuit. So no, I didn't. No. But so there was a girl cat. There was a girl cat. I was the dog, and there was a cat, and it was a girl. And I was called Floyd, and the cat was called Harvey. And they're still going now, these two things. But I used to beat up the cat for a laugh in front of everyone. And then one day I'd do it. And she loved it, this girl, Sarah.
No, she didn't.
She loved it.
You used to
loved
pick
it.
her up, put her on your
I
shoulder.
pick her up, put her on my shoulder and everything. But then, one day I was doing it and I was just about to body slam her, but not in a bad way. She's like, I'm pregnant.
And you're like,
Oh yeah, I forgot. And I'd pick her up, And they used to have this guy, funny enough, they used to have this cigarette turn up once a season to kick the habit, I think it was called. Kick the habit. We used to beat the crap out of this cigarette.
Oh.
It was so funny.
Oh, because he would have been really skinny as well.
Yeah. But they wanted us to beat this cigarette up because it was about kicking the habit, and we used to beat this bloke up so bad. No, we had a good laugh.
So is this like therapy for you, like anger therapy? This is how you got it all.
It would have been a perverse therapy for the cigarette guy.
Yeah.
But
People pay good money for that.
It was really weird, right? Because I would go and say hello to the same fans every game. There'd be a number of fans around the grounds, and I'd always say hello, have a quick chat with them. And then I would see them outside the ground, and I'd go up to them and go, hello. And they're like, who the bleeding hell is this guy? And it wasn't until I explained who I was, and they were like, oh, hello. But yeah, I'd do it forgetting I had the mask on. And I would smile in photos.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Yeah.
Smiling photos all the time. Smiling photos.
But then saying that, when we do photo setup, and you have like the bride and the bridesmaids, and they want, if they've got the dressing gowns on, they want the pictures of the back of their dressing gowns. They all turn around and face away from the camera. And I say to them, you're still smiling though, aren't you? And they go, yeah, we are. Why are we smiling? I said, you could stick your tongue out for all I care. I can't actually see your faces. They go, yeah, we are actually smiling now. So it's really weird because you just assume in a photo that you have to smile.
Trigger.
But yeah.
It's a trigger.
Very strange.
Bless.
Yeah, so that's me, really. Yeah. So at one point I was engineering, Cherrywood Productions, bass guitaring and mascotting.
Wow.
The payment for the mascot, I get the game for nothing.
Right.
Sometimes you didn't want to see the game at Charlton. But no, it's good. It was a good laugh. And our son was a mascot last year.
Oh, I love that.
Oh,
And
was he?
They recognised me and they said, would you like to come back and do that? I said, only if you're desperate. Call me if you're desperate. That's time's passed.
That's the only thing. It did take up a lot of your weekends.
Yeah.
If we had weddings booked, obviously we couldn't do that. But it was literally every Saturday having to go up to Charlton. If you didn't want to watch, you'd have to watch like the first half of the game and come out anyway. And then if you couldn't watch all of it, you'd have to then leave. And so it was quite time consuming. But obviously, if that's your team that you want to go and see, then that's fine.
But there'd be times that I would go there, do the mascot and go home. I'm like, what's the point of this? Yeah. It was good.
Well, there can't be many people who can say that they've done that.
Yeah, I've met some people. I've met some famous people like Ronaldo and Beckham, and I've met them all, really, when there's Charlton's in the Premier League. Yeah, so that was a good thing.
Yeah.
What did you do with, is it Ronaldo?
He was doing they came out the tunnel and he was doing Keep Me Up. He's in the tunnel and he only had a small space around him. And he was young, Man United, so he was like early 20s. And he only had a small space around him. He was doing his Keep Me Up. And he sort of looked over at me while doing it and winked at me. I had my head off. I didn't have my head on. And I then lunged forward as if I was going to get the ball off of him. And he sort of panicked and it all drops and everything. And then we just had a laugh. It was just a funny moment. Jose Mourinho, I met him, and Chris Kamara. I've seen rows in a tunnel. Oh, I could tell you about some rows in a tunnel. Yeah, it's good. You see a bit behind the scenes stuff.
Yeah, I bet you do, yeah.
You'd be surprised. Alan Pardew, I love Alan Pardew. He's a manager at Charlton. And he used to call out an opposing player nearly every half time. What you staring at, you mug?
Oh, really?
Stuff. Yeah, brilliant. He was brilliant. Used to have a bit of drama at lunchtime, half time. I mean, but yeah. Right.
Going back to your point, though, I understand completely where it's you sort of have your main job, and then you have all these little different things that sort of almost make up the person that you are today, really, isn't it? Because you've got all these different avenues. So you've got your main income, but then you've got all these other little avenues that I wouldn't say were even hobbies, really. It is more interests that you like rather than just doing it because you want to. But
But if you can make it pay, I mean, nowadays we call them influencers, don't we, really? I mean, that's a bit more of a broader term, but anybody that's an influencer, that's really what they're doing. They've just found something they love, whether it's something completely legitimate or even whether it's OnlyFans. They're doing something that they love and they're getting paid for doing it. So
absolutely.
What is do you want to put your OnlyFans page up? I'd follow it.
I'm very
I'd
proud to
follow
say
it.
I don't have one.
Oh, dear. I'll share
Sorry.
Rachel's with you later.
Sorry. No, I don't know.
But OnlyFans isn't just pervy stuff. It's actually pages on knitting and cooking, but it's just got that rep now.
It has got that reputation.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I mean, he was the Playboy guy. I mean, that was for the articles, wasn't it? Which sort of became a parody. The Hugh
about
Hefner.
Mhm.
Yeah. But he did write originally Playboy as a magazine, because women had magazines that had a broad range of topics. And that was really his original intention. It just got taken over by
Oh, I see.
this
So it's
all
just
of
for
the
men. For men, like,
Yeah.
So it's like FHM because that stands for heterosexual men, I believe. FHM.
Okay. Yeah,
magazine.
but that was Hugh Hefner's original,
Oh, right.
because he was a writer
Right.
originally.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sex sells, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's the thing.
So yes, it
Sex
takes
Mm.
over. Yeah, and maybe that's where the OnlyFans. I don't know. Be interesting to see how it pans out in the next sort of 5-10 years. Whether people do, because you can be a yoga teacher on there and stuff, can't you? So whether that will just be totally overshadowed by the
Mm.
adult content, more than it already is.
I'll let you know.
Okay.
I'll
Why are
do
you on there?
research.
I'll do research. Rachel, I swear this is just research.
Just for research purposes, honestly. And if I stop using it, that means there is just sewing things on there.
Imagine though going up to someone though with this reputation of OnlyFans and saying, "Oh, I've watching this video on knitting on OnlyFans," and they'd be like, I'm not sure about that. No, genuinely, it was just knitting.
Yeah, that's the thing.
Because it's got the bad reputation that follows it now.
No one believed me. I think it was with your family when I said, OnlyFans isn't just porn and stuff. Get out of it. It isn't. It isn't just porn.
I don't know where the other platform for that would be, because if you
YouTube more than anything.
it would only be YouTube, wouldn't it? So if you were a knitter, where would you put your content out here's me, Instagram, but they tend to be quite short.
Yeah,
don't they?
Insta's about a minute. Well, actually, you can have longer Instagrams, but there's different ways on Instagram, isn't there? There's like highlights and a
Reels,
post you can have as long as you want.
stories,
yeah.
And some things are limited to a minute long, which I've never grasped. I do Cherrywood stuff on there all the time, and I'm like, oh, that's been cut. That's been cut short. There's so many platforms, isn't there? There's possibly one site you can go to and if you post something on there and it'll go on everything. I haven't found it, but I'm sure someone's done that by now.
Well, they would post it up for you.
Well, there is with this podcast. On this podcast, I use a company called Buzzsprout.
Mhm.
I put the podcast in Buzzsprout and it sends it to all of them,
Okay.
which is very good.
So all the audio platforms.
Yeah,
Okay.
so it sends it to YouTube. YouTube has a podcast section as well, which I've only just found out from doing this.
Ah.
And I will post the video on the same podcast playlist that we've got. So if you go on our website, www.cherrywoodpro.com/podcast, and you click that link on there, it will take you to our YouTube site, which has got the audio version and the video version on it as well.
Ah, brilliant.
Yeah, so I'm sure there'd be something like that for social media. There used to be.
What?
Because
Yeah.
there are things, social media.
Social media.
There's things linked, like Instagram's linked to Facebook, isn't it? I know we've done that.
Yeah,
If I
Instagram
post on Insta, it goes to our Facebook.
and Thread. You can link all three of those together because there was a thing
Oh, right.
a few weeks ago that if you deleted your Thread account, it would automatically delete your Instagram
really?
account. So they had to separate the two to say, no, I only want to delete my Thread account or I only want to delete my Instagram
I
account,
see.
but not the other. Because it was linked, then it was deleting both of them rather than
Okay,
just
that's
one.
nice.
I don't use Thread. Well, I've used Thread because it tells me when people have started following me, but it's just used my Insta account for that. It's taken everyone from the Insta, but it's just too much, isn't there? But
There is.
unfortunately, is it because we're getting old and we just don't like change? I don't know.
But different platforms are worth different things. So you don't want something that shoots it out to everything because some things are not applicable.
Mm.
So I would not go on YouTube for anything. But people who do arts and crafts, so you're knitting, that's going to be Pinterest, really. Pinterest and Instagram. If you
Yes.
want to do videos of yourself crocheting, then you would use maybe TikTok. So I suppose it's different platforms, really, and
I
find
See,
it.
for us, for the
finding-
wedding business, we want to just post
Small.
in one place,
Mm.
and then it to go everywhere. Really, the videos
Yeah.
go everywhere.
Because you almost need to give them like a highlight, don't you? You
Yeah.
don't want to show people like an hour
No,
of
no,
someone's
no.
day. You know,
No.
they can't sit there and watch all that. It
No.
needs to be quick.
It's got to be
It
short.
needs to be, yeah. And the
Mm.
video is the main thing, isn't it?
Mm.
That is what will capture someone's
Yeah.
attention. That video needs to do the work. You can have as much spiel, but people don't read that. It needs to be the video that gets their attention. Like you can sit there and refer 20 people to someone, but if you just give them their details, people don't have time nowadays to sit there and say, okay, I'm going to, as soon as you send the details, I'm going to have a look at this, do this. It's when they're sitting down later on in the evening when they've actually got time. If you send them the video, they'll go, oh, I'll watch that video. And they've got all the information there. They've got all of the contact details there. If you send them an email like this, they have to read that. They'll look at it and go, oh, I can't be bothered. If they've got a video there, they'll go, okay, I can watch that. And that's the power of videos nowadays, isn't it?
I have network meetings once a week, and you do as well. You're in BNI
Indeed,
as well.
that's
You're-
right. I am BNI Folkestone.
Folkestone.
Yeah.
BNI, that's how we met. BNI. BNI. And on my minute, I always mention that what do you do when you're scrolling down? You stop at the videos. You only stop at the videos. And I say, that's where I come in. I can create you a video for your company, you know. But you do just tend to stop at the videos, maybe at a picture every now and then, but you will stop at a video. My voice is a video.
I
I
like
have to
it.
get myself an OnlyFans page. For this voice,
Or do some
just until it
voiceovers.
runs out. Okay, brilliant. So where are we now with your life? So we've got the hypnotised.
So how did I get to here? So how did I get to here? So the potted history of how I got to where I am now.
Yeah.
So I found myself in the mid-2000s with 2 very small children and no job. And I was a gym goer, so I like going to the gym. And I figured that I needed to find work very quickly and had no means of earning any money.
Was you married or separate?
Just left.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Early 2000s.
Yeah.
I'm with your sister. Same as me. Yeah. Okay.
And I thought, well, if I have to go to work, I can't go to the gym. So I didn't fancy that idea very much. So I became a fitness instructor. And I did all of that, all the jumping around stuff and spin and what have you. And then sort of discovered yoga and the more softer things. Came out of the clubs and went to, hiring a village hall kind of setup. Really enjoyed kind of meditation and all the softer things that came with that. So slowed down quite a bit. Probably about then became Buddhist. And when you teach a lot of yoga, so I'm a yoga teacher. So when you teach, you've got a class at 9:30 in the morning, 10:30, and then most people don't really have anything in the afternoon. So most teachers in that environment would do something else, and that's when you're going to be a therapist or something like that. And I've always written and been a writer of some description. So then I was really getting involved in Buddhism, and my company then, I was just self-employed, and I decided that in order to retire at some point, then I would have to sell the company. So if I stopped being a yoga teacher, everything would just disappear. So I set about making that a company. So I built it up. So we had 10 teachers, thousands of students. This was in Ashford, in Kent. And I was then working as a Buddhist chaplain in the prison service. So I was kind of almost training to be a nun. So I would spend a lot of time with monks and in monasteries. And so then I was a chaplain, so I would teach the boys Tai Chi and stuff. And I was trained by the Shaolin monks for Tai Chi. And so I sold the company and thought, I'll kind of reinvent myself. Because when you're doing all that physical work, being a lady of a certain age, you're not going to keep that up forever. So I needed my second career. So I didn't really know what that was going to be. So I thought I'll sell the business, have a sabbatical, have 3 months off and have some creative time to myself. And my mum died. And that completely pulled the rug from underneath me. I mean, it was sad, obviously, but it was just the sort of the turmoil that you're kind of going along your path quite settled. And then suddenly it was like, oh, I didn't expect that. So there was no way that I could be creative at that point. So I didn't really know what to do. So her death meant that I also couldn't live in the same house anymore and the financial implications of all of that. So I had to move to a different town. So, which was kind of okay, but it meant I had to downsize. So I sort of went from being a mum to a grown-up lady in my own home, kids leaving home type of next chapter. So again, that was all okay, but it wasn't. It was more thrust upon me rather than my natural.
Yeah.
It was coming, but I wasn't quite ready for that. So I just didn't know how to reinvent myself. What was I going to do? So I was sort of bimbling along. Then, of course, COVID came. And when you are a chaplain, really you're taking services. You know, I didn't stand in a pulpit, but really you're at the top of the class teaching people stuff. You know, you're the one at the front doing the talking, which as a teacher, that's really what I'd always done. Whether it was yoga or Pilates or Tai Chi, you're at the front doing the talking. And so one thing that my mum did, my mum was a really great lady. She was very popular, very successful person. As a person, she was very successful. And so my life as a Buddhist had been very austere. So I had no hair, wasn't allowed to wear makeup and no jewellery, no perfume, not allowed to play music. Yeah, so in my tradition, they would shave off the eyebrows. So I never took my eyebrows off, but had much shorter hair than you.
Right.
So, yeah.
Oh my gosh.
So, but my mum was a really good person and she contributed hugely to the world. And I thought, you know what, you don't have to be all sackcloth and ashes in order to make a good contribution. And I'd been sort of training for about 7 or 10 years by that point. And being a nun is very hard. It's really hard work. And basically I never quite made it. And I thought, maybe it's not really for me. Maybe I'm not actually meant to take that path. And actually you can be a good person, just like my mum was, and still have a little scotch of an evening, you know, because I like a Manhattan. And, you know, the world's not going to end if I have a Manhattan on a Friday night. So, so all of that happened. And so I figured that being the person at the front doing the talking, what's a vicar in the real world? And to me, that was being a celebrant. And so I retrained. So that was kind of how I came about being that. Because to be a celebrant, you've got to be a public speaker. You've got to be a writer. And you've got to be a listener. So it seemed to kind of combine all of the skills that I had. So off I went and trained. And it's a massively saturated market, which I'm sure you find in the wedding world. You know, the competition is absolutely rife. So it's taken
the way I see it is we're in the best county for it. I think we're in the capital of weddings in England, Kent. There's enough to go around as the way I see it.
Yeah, that's a good way of looking at it. Yeah,
so I wouldn't have even thought, you know, I know maybe I'm being naive, but I wouldn't have even thought it was so saturated. Would you think that? Like the market,
for like Toastmasters and Celebrant.
Yeah.
Toastmasters probably not. I thought you had
not so much for Toastmasters.
More Celebrant than anything.
Because
you do a bit of Toastmasters as well, don't you? Is that right?
So that's what I'm just about to embark on. So the celebrancy, most people tend to be either a wedding celebrant or a funeral celebrant.
Right. Okay.
So I'm very good with people at a point of crisis. So really, I'm all about the trauma. Really. So I've been a funeral celebrant, and that's where that's really saturated. There's a lot of people, being funeral celebrants.
Yeah.
I think with that you have to.
But you're a wedding
have
celebrant
that.
as well, aren't you?
Yeah, I do them. I can do them. Yeah. But I think my favourite shtick would be the emceeing and the Toastmastering.
Okay.
So a chap that I trained with, he's become a Toastmaster, and we were talking. I said, "Oh man, that really appeals to me." So I'm currently training, and so I have my first wedding the day after tomorrow. And so it's a new venture. So really, it's going to all kind of kick off in 2024. So it's got all of that pomp and ceremony that I like, and that sort of touch of glamour. But I think it's quirky enough because most Toastmasters are fat old middle-aged men. So it's quite nice to have a slightly different.
I know too many.
Well, darling, if you ever need to do a new career,
but
I've got all three, haven't I? Fat, old, middle-aged.
No, I think people who are having a wedding, for example, because it's not just weddings that I'll be involved in, but more inclusive communities don't want middle-aged, middle-class, fat older gentlemen to take their ceremony. But when you've got groups of large number of people gathering, then they need herding in some
Oh,
way.
absolutely.
And so either the CEO or whoever's having the gala dinner, or the mayor, whoever she may be, or the bride, they need some help. And so any event, the venue may have somebody who will help them, but they're on the venue side.
Yes, they're not
They're not there
100%,
for the person. And so that's where a Toastmaster comes in. So I think as soon as you get to 70 guests of anywhere, it's worth really considering having somebody who's going to be there just to, right, you all need to get in this room now. Even if you don't want the, the post-nominals announcing of who everybody is, you just need a person on hand to be the go-to guy. And the red coat is what helps people because they think, if the mother-in-law, her buttonhole goes missing or whatever, and she can't find or locate or identify a member of staff at the hotel, then she's going to be able to see you in your red jacket and think, okay, well, that's somebody who's in charge. I can tell that from what they're wearing. I'll go and ask them. And that's really what you're there for.
100%. We love it. We love having a Toastmaster because we can give them the photo list. They can call up the next people for the photos. It's ideal.
Yeah.
Because otherwise it's me. And I know it sounds weird, but I do have quite a loud voice when I need to, don't I?
My goodness,
and it is a little bit intrusive when you have to sit there and all your guests are having a drink or having a chat and you have to interrupt them and you have to shout and say, right, everyone, I need your attention, please. Would you like to make your way over here? Blah, blah, blah. And you always get, so-and-so's in the loo. So mum's gone missing, blah, blah, blah. And you're thinking, okay, I've got a limited amount of time between you finishing your wedding ceremony to your wedding breakfast. You've given me a list of 100 odd photos that you would like me to take, and I have to do that in a space of an hour and a half or something like that. So it is quite stressful, but when obviously there is a Toastmaster there, you can literally hand them the list and it's like they're sort of...
It's a conveyor belt.
Basically.
So while you're sorting out one shot, the next shot comes in.
And you're concentrating on the actual shot and you've already got the next one lined up, and it's perfect because even though that would take 2 or 3 minutes to go and get these people and go and get them in the shot, those 2 or 3 minutes...
Times it by 10, it's 30 minutes.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But I think when you are trying to get those people into position, if there's some degree of reluctance on their part that they don't really want to be doing that right now because they're having a nice time and chatting, it's much harder for you to be the authoritarian or be the bad guy. Whereas I think a Toastmaster, I can actually afford to be the bad guy. And
100%.
Look, here she comes, shouting and hollering. I don't like her very much. She's like a school teacher. Well, yeah, okay, I can be that. Whereas you've almost got to still be the nice person because you want them to recommend you. Whereas, I think it's a slightly different feel. You've got to be quite authoritarian and firm and not be afraid to say, well, we need you now, so you're going to have to move. Yeah.
Oh, you're going to have to let us know how you get on in 2 days' time.
Yes, I can't wait.
So have you got a little... Have you written up anything for the bride and groom at the end when you sign off for the day or end of the speeches?
Do you have to write that or do you get given that? Are you allowed to personalise it?
I think everyone has their own, don't they?
Yeah, I haven't got anything prepared. So today, the rest of today and tomorrow is when I need to really... I mean, I've got a lot of my notes, obviously. But I mean, they're having a celebrant. So this is... I think we might have to deal with this because this is for a charity.
Oh, right, okay.
So it's a little bit unusual in terms of weddings and expectations and what's actually going to happen. So, no, they're just going to have the regular cutting of the cake and the bouquet toss and then first dance and then that's it.
Perfect. Brilliant.
Yeah.
That's great.
Looking forward to it.
Do you get nervous before something like that? Or
Yeah, I would. I definitely get nervous in a funeral or a sense of importance, the gravity of what you're just about to do hits home every time. In terms of public speaking, no, don't get nervous about that. But it's interesting when you're delivering a funeral, you've got a lectern. And of course, I've written it all. So I've written it all in my own space. So I'm kind of at home at my desk. And so I'm 100% confident in what I've written. But then there on the day, I've got it all written in front of me. So even though I think, am I in the right place?
Yeah.
Is this the person who's in the box? You know, you get those kind of things, but you're just really confident in actually it all took place at home when I was totally in control. So you just know that you've done it correctly.
I have really random things. Like I know I've put my bag in the car with all my camera stuff in, but I could be driving down the motorway and I'm like, have I actually put my camera stuff in?
Check it.
I'm like, oh my God. And then I have a split second of, did I leave it at home? Even though I know it's in the back of the car, but it's that split second of, oh my God, what would I do? What would I do? And it's that sheer panic. But then you have to sort of think, you put it in the car. You know you've put it in the car and almost reassure yourself that this is okay, that sort of thing. So,
those things, I don't put them in the boot for that very reason. So my script, and I give the family like a memorial little box, a little keepsake box, which has got their script and some other things that I make for them. And I put that on the passenger seat because I will check it a dozen times on the way to the crib. Just, double check. So it's okay to have those checks because that's what makes you good at what you're doing.
Exactly. If you wasn't worried, like we said before, that's when we're jacketing. If you're not worried before a wedding, that's when you're going to make mistakes.
Yeah. Absolutely.
You've got to have a little bit of worry there.
Yeah, you've got to be, it's what perks you up.
And when you're about to announce something, it's probably the first time you do it is the nerves, isn't it? You've got to get that first line out first.
Yeah.
And then everything else is fine. I find that though.
Do you, like when you have your information in front of you, is there certain things that do you use? Because I know if I read something out loud, I highlight bits that I know that I have to say, sort of like important bits that I know that I have to say, I highlight in pink, or, you know, things that aren't as important, but if I need to get to it, I highlight in blue. Is there any sort of things like that you do to make sure you get certain bits out, or?
It's timed a lot more accurately than that. So I can't read it ad hoc.
Right.
So it's not bullet points or this is the most important aspect from this paragraph. I have to read every word out of that whole paragraph. So with a funeral, it is timed.
Right. Okay.
So I have to know when mistakes are going to be made in terms of, it's usually the coming in.
Right.
So if the arrival can be so late that it puts you back. So if I'm nervous about the amount of content that we've got to get through, then I will have pre-printed my script that will have big chunks that are in a different colour that I could completely skip out if I need to.
Oh, right, okay.
It's very hard to deliver a script and edit it at the same time whilst you're talking. It is possible, but it's much easier if you've done all of that editing. So I remember one service, I asked the funeral director to, you always say, if you can get a bit earlier, it's really helpful because we've got a lot to get through. And we managed to get in 5 minutes early, which in a funeral is quite a long time. And so all the mourners were coming in, and this one lady who was on a frame was taking her time. And she just stopped in the middle of the aisle and she couldn't decide how to sort of make her way into the pew, which was totally understandable. But she completely backlogged because everybody just respectfully stood there and waited for her to take her time. And there wasn't time for that. You've got to be a little bit more robust and just not push past her. There was room, but you just need to just keep going and you will find your seats and she will figure it out. But she used up all of my 5 minutes and I really needed them. And so you can be paddling quite crazy underneath. So there will be big bits in my script and it will say, you've got 7 minutes from here. If you're not here by 2:43, you're running over. So it will be timed in that way to make sure. Because
it's the swan effect, isn't it?
Yeah.
Be graceful at the top.
Yeah,
you're paddling,
there's heavy fines to pay if you overrun.
See, I suppose it's very similar to a wedding because, again, if the bride's late, that makes us late. And so we limit our time with the photos and everything like that.
It's food related with weddings, but
I thought you were going to say with us.
No, it's food related with us. But with funerals, it's funeral related. There's another funeral coming in. You won't usually get two weddings. You get two weddings at one venue, but you don't ever get one use exactly the same stuff. They split the venue, don't they?
We've had registrars and celebrants have to go to another one, haven't we?
Oh,
so
definitely.
they're the
And
ones that are on the time
like
scale.
Archbishop's Palace in
in Maidstone. Yeah.
Obviously, that's a bit of a conveyor belt just for ceremonies. So you've got to get you in, have your ceremony and out, because it's like a registry office, isn't it? A glorified registry office.
It is, yeah.
So yeah,
But it's that, if, like you were saying, if one part of it is delayed, then the rest of it is going to be delayed. And again, that limits our time. So we sort of think we've got,
So
half
what do you
hour.
do? Do you have to cut elements out, or do you just run over and keep all of the elements in?
It depends. If the venue allow us to go over, we do sometimes. If not, we'll just say to the bride and groom, we've done this. The rest of them we're going to have to do when we have time, when you're available after the first dance or after the speeches or however it's set up. And we have to try and say to them that you've given us this list, you want these photos, please bear with us. But sometimes we ask the venue and they're quite good, aren't they? It all depends on if they've got a receiving line. Yeah, I said that right, didn't I?
you said receding usually, don't you?
Receiving line. But it's if they've got a receiving line, if they're, coming in all like the bridesmaids and then the mums and then everyone else is coming in, or if the guests are just going in and they're just going in, like the bride and groom are just going in as well. So it all depends really on what the wedding breakfast setup is, isn't it?
And what time
the
of year
food.
it is.
Yeah,
because
yeah, as
we
well.
can go back and do the bride and groom by themselves
In the
later
sun.
on,
Yeah.
after
If-
we've
yeah.
eaten. There's
Right.
always a nice gap between
Speeches?
speeches and first dance.
Yeah.
Speeches cutting the cake. There's at least an hour or two there,
Mhm.
which we can go back and address. But in the winter, you haven't got the light for that sometimes.
Mhm.
But, I can't have one wedding stand out where we really had trouble getting the photos done, can you?
No. Not that we've done. I mean,
Mm.
we've had a few where, like one recently that I think you did. You were filming, weren't you? And because it is very tiring for bride and groom. I mean, I know when we got married, my jaw was aching. By the time I'd actually
Smiling.
sat down, you're just smiling so much, and you
That
just want to
soon
sit
stopped,
there
eh?
and you just want to sit there and go, oh God, my face is actually hurting. So we get that, don't we? And we have to say to bride and grooms, just take 5 minutes and don't smile. Just have 5 minutes, because otherwise you'll go in and you constantly just be smiling and aching.
So who took your wedding photography?
Graham Scott, I
Graham
think
Scott,
it asked, yeah.
And I had a guy called David Finley that filmed ours. So we have Dave come and we help each other out basically. So he came and filmed it and I edited it eventually. Yeah, eventually.
Eventually.
Yeah.
But with ours, you sort of, where?
You drifted off, by the way. You went on
sorry.
to smiling and you never really got to the point that you were trying to get to.
Can't remember what my point was now.
Yeah. See, that's what I have to put up with.
But you said to my
I think you were saying about there's a wedding I had when I was filming.
oh yeah, and I think it was near the winter, and the photographer, because I wasn't the photographer, I think you were just filming, and in the end she just went, no, I don't want any photos.
Oh, yeah.
And we have to say to them, look, you do realise you have no you've got your group photos, but you don't have any photos of just you and your husband. When you get back and you look at your album, you're going to have 1 or 2 photos when you should have hundreds to pick from, that sort of thing.
So 80% of the time, our script on what photos we've been asked to take will be altered by the bride and groom,
Right.
where they can't be bothered to do it any longer.
Oh, really?
Oh, without a doubt. They've had enough.
So,
that would do. That would do.
So
now.
prior to it, they're happy for umpteen gazillion, but then on the day they
Exactly.
realise how exhausting it is.
You get some photographers saying, "I'm only ever doing 6 group photos."
Yeah.
We're not like that. We do whatever you want. You're
It's
paying
your
for a
day.
service.
Yeah.
You're paying for a service, and some of them go, "That's it. You've only got 6. You've only got 10 group photos, and all the rest are going to be just photos of the day, and the couple and the bride and groom and all that." But we're limiting it to 6 group photos. No, you can take whatever photos you want, but you got to understand you've got a time limit, and you got to understand that you are going to get bored with it, and they do. They get bored of it.
Yeah.
And we've started saying that in our consultations with bride and grooms. We say, I'm really sorry, but you will get not annoyed with us, but you'll get bored. You'll want to go and see your friends. And we have to say to them, look, just give us this hour, 1 hour of your day to get your photos that you want. But any other time, go and see your friends. First dance, we're not there after first dance. You can party all you want, that sort of thing. We just have to say to them, don't we? we've got 1 hour of your time in that day out of the 24 hours that you're there to get married and have all your reception and everything. We have 1 hour. Just give us that 1 hour to get all your photos that you want, and then we'll leave you alone.
And some can't do it. Some don't. You know, after a while,
Really?
they're like, we've honestly had enough now. But that's fine. If you had enough, you had enough.
Mm.
And we worry that they're going to come back. We didn't get all these photos that you promised, but we never really get a comeback, do we?
Okay, yeah.
But then you get
They know that they stopped short. You know, they wanted to stop short. So.
But then you get the complete opposite. We've had a few brides that they're just like, yeah, sure. Yeah, I'll have another. Yeah, sure. We'll have this. Yeah.
Can I have Auntie Jack and Uncle Bob? And
Absolutely.
because they haven't seen these people for 10 years. You know,
Yes.
that's the thing. They're having their photos taken. The bride and groom are taken away, and they're glancing over at people that they've not seen for 10 years. You know, they really want to chat to.
Mm-hmm.
So they're torn between having their photos done and having a good old chat. And
Mm-hmm.
and in this, while they're torn, they're all getting slightly drunk, you know,
Yes.
gradually drinking a bit more, you know. So you can understand where they're coming from, but they have to understand, and they do usually understand that we can only do what they want us to do. You know, at the end of the day, if they want to stop, you can't put it on us afterwards, and they don't really.
No.
You know.
The time of the day is working very differently to your time, though, isn't it? Their day is passing really fast.
Really fast. That's our
You know,
selling
they're
point. For the
living
video.
their hour much
Yeah.
quicker than you are. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is our selling point for the video. There were times years ago that I would go to, I would offer to film someone's wedding for nothing, knowing, and if they didn't want the video, they wouldn't get the video and they still wouldn't have to pay. But if they wanted the video, then they'd have to pay, because I could guarantee that 99% of those couples would want the video eventually. Even if they didn't really want their day filmed, after their wedding, they'll want it. Don't remember a thing, do you, on your wedding? It flies by so quickly.
Just goes so quick.
Oh, yeah.
Mm.
I've done that as a selling point before.
Yes, I can imagine. So you were a photographer before?
Yes.
Were you?
Yeah, I did
Okay.
my degree in photography and media arts.
Right.
And then we met and just went from there really with the business, didn't we? Because you already had the foundation of Cherrywood set up,
videography.
didn't you? Yeah.
Met her. I didn't go for her looks because she hasn't got much look-wise.
Oh,
Just went for her skill, really.
Don't worry, he'll go home. He does this all the time, and then he goes, "I'm
Sleeping
really
in a
sorry,
spare
Rach. I'm
room."
really sorry, Rach. Don't hurt me."
Don't believe a word of it. Don't believe a word of it. Right, so obviously it's hard for me to say this because it's going to sound pretty morbid, but what would your ideal client be? Someone that's passed away usually, but
well, my clients are the funeral directors, so they're my
right.
clients, so not the families.
okay.
So from a marketing perspective, so that's really probably why it's easier to stick with either funerals or weddings. So that's why celebrants do, because as a business model, you need 6 funeral directors or maybe 8, and that's it. So once
Okay.
you've got those as clients, then they will just keep coming back to you.
Yeah, that's good.
So as a business model, there's no marketing, there's no advertising. I mean, you don't really need to even talk about it, because the funeral director, if they're happy with what you do, they'll just keep ringing you up.
That's good.
Yeah. So as a
wanna change
business
direction
model,
into the weddings.
yeah.
or-
So that's really where BNI comes in, because I've been in the BNI for 6 months, and it was like, wow, this is an amazing opportunity to be able to talk to lots of people. How can I kind of maximize that? And actually, how can I add a string to my bow that wasn't really present by just doing the funerals? So that's kind of how it's all seems possible. Whereas before BNI, and yeah, it just didn't really seem possible.
And that there is the gap, isn't it? The weekends are the gap for you as well.
Exactly.
The funerals are going on in the week.
So yes, so weddings on the week. I'd like to do Masonic dues. So the Masons hire a lot of Toastmasters. So that'll be like Friday night kind of dinners. There'll be gala dinners. There'll be Friday, Saturday night. So there are times when essentially you're not working otherwise. So it should be a good complement. That's the plan.
This is going to sound a weird question as well. Is it a bit of is it hard because you've got sort of a funeral which is sort of like quite low, and then you're going into a wedding which should be sort of like a joyous occasion? Does that mess with your mind sometimes? How you have to sort of differentiate between the two. Like if you've got a funeral one day and then you've got a wedding the next, how you've got to sort of be somber and then sort of go up into a high again. Do you find that hard, or?
I don't think it's hard because I'm not making myself any different.
Okay.
Because if you're warm in your delivery, then you're warm whether you're talking about somebody who's passed away or you're warm talking about people who are in love with one another. So I think I am essentially always the same. However, when you're taking a funeral for, I did twin babies recently.
Oh my God.
So that's tough.
Yeah.
So
absolutely.
I cannot pretend that I don't sit at my desk. I tend to write really early in the morning. I'll write at 5 o'clock in the morning. So little low lamp on in my dressing gown, tapping away at the keyboard. So I can be at my desk in the dark at 6 o'clock in the morning crying, because I'm, last week I buried a 22-year-old boy who's the same age as my son. So yeah, there's some really tough things. Yeah. But all of that sort of empathy or understanding of, or even just trying to think about what that family must be going through, then that all goes on in the privacy of my own home, in my very comfortable kind of safe space. So you would have to be awful to not be touched by it.
Absolutely.
So yes, you are touched by it. But when you are standing there talking, it's like, oh, this is the same job.
Yeah.
So it is exactly the same job. So because you feel like you're at work.
Yeah.
I'm at work when I'm standing there, and it is exactly the same job. So your voice and your delivery is essentially the same because you are being you, and it's just kind of coming out. But the words you're going to use are slightly different.
Yeah. So have you ever sort of like you said earlier, when you do cry, it's hard not to take those, especially like you said with the twin babies, it's hard not to bring that home, isn't it? It's sort of, and again, like the 22-year-old, you relate it to people in your family. So that, again, you sort of almost bring it home, which sometimes you don't want to. You sort of have to think, I need to leave it in the office.
Yeah, have you got a method for sort of detaching yourself from it?
I think awareness of that is a possible pitfall helps. So I took a service for a young girl in the summer. She was 27 and had died very unexpectedly. And so there was 300 people there.
Wow.
And so as an introvert, it's energetically very draining because you are holding all of that space. And so very often when you've got a lot to say about somebody, then you have what we call a double slot. So they'll book the crematorium space twice.
Oh, right.
So you've got double the length. Yeah.
Yeah.
And you need that when you've got that number of people because they take a long time to come in and exit and stuff. So that service was an hour easy. So you're holding 300 people for an hour. So that's really tiring. So I don't feel that I've ever kind of wanted to burst into tears at the time. I have been terribly moved to the point where you think you've really got to hold it together because the next of kin is as close to me as you are now. Absolutely. They're right next to you. And so, their grief can be, palpable. But you're a professional, so you don't generally get affected by that. But the energy that it takes to do it is tiring. Yeah. And so when I did the young girls,
I'd be blubbering wreck, wouldn't I?
Yeah.
Well, you cry at some daddy-daughter dances and
I
stuff.
cry at speeches. Could be filming a speech and you'll look over at me, wouldn't you?
And I just, at certain points, like the dad stands up and says, this is my baby. He puts himself in that situation. I can see him at the corner of my eye. And be like,
me wiping the tears, trying to look upwards so I stop.
And I was thinking, oh God, he's off again.
He's off, yeah.
But you put yourself in that situation, don't you? You sort of think, well, if that was me and my daughter was getting married, I would say this, I would say this. And there's certain triggers that obviously that happens and you sort of think, oh, that's my baby. And then you start crying.
Yeah.
But going back to the exhaustion, I mean, we are exhausted by the end of it, aren't we? Because everyone sort of sits there and says, oh, it's just one day. But it's not for us. They think it's one day. And yes, we turn up for one day, but It's the preparation beforehand. It's the 3 to 4 weeks after editing. But on the actual day, we're there from about 10:30ish in normal sort of standard
10
wedding, 10 to 10:30, all the way through to first dance, which could be 9 o'clock at night. So by the time we get home, we're like, oh my God, we're absolutely exhausted. And most of the time we are on our feet doing that as well, aren't we?
Yeah, a lot of running around.
Comfortable shoes.
That's where I get the shoulder issues from, holding the camera out, you know?
Yeah.
So, it can be tiring. But it's weird, isn't it? Because we're just before the ceremony, and from before the ceremony to after the speeches, we're like, can't do this any longer. This is too tiring. And then the speeches happen. You've got that 2-hour gap, and you've just got the first dance and a few other little bits. And we're like, could do this forever. This But that bit beforehand,
you're fickle.
The bit beforehand is so stressful because you get one chance. That's the problem. It's not like filming a show. You can do as many takes as you want. You get one chance of this stuff. And I think that's where all the stress is.
And like we were saying, I think we mentioned this in when we did our podcast together. Our sections are completely different, aren't they? So my most important section, so my most stressful points are bridal prep, and then I would say the photos after they've got married, and then first dance. Whereas yours are ceremony and speeches, because like you said, you've only got one chance to capture, and they're the most important parts. Whereas I can be walking around, I can be different angles, everything like that. You can't. You've sort of literally got to stay there and film it as it happens, where I can be like, oh, I'm not sure about that angle. I might go and move over to this side, or I might go and move this side. You can't. You've got to literally stand there and film what is happening.
So that first dance, we're literally dancing ourselves.
Oh, we are.
So they'll be dancing in the centre. I'll be panning around. She knows that I cannot move the camera away. It's just got to be fixed on them. But she knows she can try lots of different things. So you'll dodge out my way, won't you? Or stay beside me as I move.
Yeah. So
sort of read each other's minds now, don't we? Really?
Yeah. And it's only sort of like if I
think you're doing something that you're going to get in my shot, I'll give you a little look, and straight away.
Oh, okay, let's go back. But that's good. That's us, isn't it? That's the benefit.
Benefit of booking both photographers.
Exactly. Husband and wife team. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. So you mentioned filming a show there. So what kind of experience do you have in filming?
So in lockdown, we had no weddings at all. So I decided, I got a friend who I know, a guy that I just started following who he did a little 10-minute show, 10-minute sort of sitcom that he posted, and he ended up going to the BBC with it. But due to lockdown, it never went any further. And I just got a bit inspired by it, really. I've never written anything in my life. Because for me, it just takes too much out of me, So I thought I'd have a go, and I wrote this script about engineering, called it something like Skyhook, and that was my first little practice. Never went anywhere, never even sent it out anywhere.
But you always aspired to do something like this, didn't you? All the time you said to him, I'm going to write a script one day. I'd love to do this. And he always had ideas, and he had like a little notebook on his phone, and you would write ideas down, wouldn't you? Saying, I to start off, I would do this. And he'd always be creative and have little ideas and create little parts of it, wouldn't you?
I've always got parts of stand-up.
Yeah, that's true.
I've got parts of stand-up on my phone. Yeah. Not that maybe I'll do stand-up one day. I don't know.
You should.
Yeah,
Cherrywood stand up next.
Cherrywood stand up, comedy nights, So there's parts of stand up, but then I thought I just want to have a go at writing a 30-minute pilot comedy, and don't ask me how I started or finished with this comedy, but there's a reveal at the end, a surprise sort of reveal at the end, and I think I thought of that reveal first, and then wrote backwards leading up to it. So I got in contact with this guy that went to the BBC. We ended up becoming friends. I said, look, I'm thinking about writing something. You've inspired me to write something. He said, send it over when you do. So I sent it over. He said, I can't believe this, he said, because a lot of people say to me, you've inspired me and send me something, but they never actually finish sending it. So I sent it over. He said, you've sent me the whole script. Look, that was like revision 2. I think when I filmed it, it was like revision 42 or something like that. But in lockdown, we filmed the comedy. I managed to get hold of certain actors, Ricky Groves from EastEnders, one of the actors sort of knew him. So he played Gary Hobbs, like Mint. Do you know EastEnders at all?
No.
So there's a guy called Minty and his mate was called Gary Hobbs and he was in EastEnders. And one of the nicest people you can meet. Still talk to the guy now. So he was in it. It was hard going, wasn't it? Hard going in between lockdown because we was having to test people.
So I think it was in between. It was that December where, like the beginning part of December, we were allowed to see or be in groups of 15, no more. But then we were getting too close to Christmas that he actually cancelled Christmas and everything like that. So I think in that space of coming out of lockdown and going into lockdown at Christmas, I think we had a window of about 4 weeks, and we just went, let's go. let's do one of the scenes. Let's get something under our belt, didn't we?
So there were like flashback scenes and things like that were outside. We were able to do them. Really enjoyed doing it. Stressful, but really enjoyed doing it because we did it all just us two, didn't we? Really, all the planning and everything was just us two. And then started happy with the end product. You know, I was actually quite blown away by what we had done. Then we had a viewing with everyone involved, through BNI people, because I used them as extras in there was a club scene. So I used them as extras in that. They all really thought it was good, you know, but your friends are going to tell you this stuff, see? So I never believe friends. Yeah. Never believe friends. So I entered a lot of comedy festivals. So there's one place where you can do that. It's called Film Freeway, I believe. It's a bit like what we were discussing earlier, 1 point, and then it shows you where all the festivals are around the world. So I entered a few of these festivals and ended up getting selected for 6 and came second in one of them. So really pleased about that.
And you've got the, what do they call them? The
laurels. Laurels, yeah. So I've got 6 laurels for that, just that little comedy. And it's now on Amazon Prime, that pilot. So you can watch it. Yeah. And then the guy that I was talking about earlier, Robert Rivet, we're going to have in at some point. He asked me to direct something else he's written. So we just finished that this year. So that's another half-hour pilot.
I think he got a little bit. He got a little bit inspired, didn't he, by seeing actually, because he did his 10 minutes, didn't he? And he had to film it himself. And he said that was so hard because he didn't understand how getting it from the script to the screen would work. But we obviously knew how to do that. So I think he got really inspired seeing this script 1 minute and then it was on the screen and how it actually made that transaction from script to screen. Really.
He had someone film it, but he did the editing himself.
Oh, he did the editing. Sorry, he did the
ever
editing.
since I've seen it, I like the little 10-minute thing he does, but he keeps saying it's in the past. Don't want to do any more with that. And I'm like, just let me edit it. Let me re-edit it, and he won't let me do it. He's like, that's done now. That's done and dusted. Fair enough. So we've done a half-hour one called Dusty, and that was shown at Bromley Picture House, which is cinema. So and he had a couple of hundred people watch that, didn't they? And that went down quite well as well. So yeah. Anything like that. Do you know, I would like to meet people that have written a book or something and want it put into a film. I'd love to do some little project like that.
Do you know what I said the other day? What? You know the Christmas rapping song? I know, obviously, because it's playing at the moment.
What Christmas rapping
Christmas rapping song. You know the Christmas rapping? You mean you forgot cranberries too? That song?
The Waitresses.
Yeah. Oh my God, you do know that song.
Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas. Yeah, right.
That is a story. And I was telling Tilly, I said, I'd love to turn that to like a film, like a Christmas film, because basically it goes throughout the year, doesn't it? And it's about her meeting this guy near Christmas, and then they plan to meet up all these different times, but all these things happen and they never actually meet up. And then on Christmas, they actually meet up and get together. And I said, that'd be a really good, like, cheesy Christmas cheesy film.
Write it up then and I'll film it for you.
I don't do the writing, I just have the ideas.
I've got a feeling I've seen it recently as a musical.
It's been done.
It's been,
I had an idea once like that and it got done, didn't it? It was about a £10 note or something like that. And this, you know what, £10 notes change hands all the time, don't they? And so the focus is on this £10 note and it would be different stories every week.
Okay, yeah.
And then, you know, someone would be snorting cocaine for it.
Yes.
And then an old lady would be using it to buy flowers for her husband that's passed away or something like that. But this £10 note would have different stories for it. But the Simpsons used it, didn't they?
Oh, damn the
Simpsons. They predict everything.
They always predict it. And I think there was someone else has used it. A music video's done it now as well.
It's a good vehicle, isn't it? So can I go back to something you said? As a writer, I'm interested that you showed the second revision, and then by the time it got anywhere further along, it was about the 42nd revision. How did you take that because I would take it as a real criticism. And I think, yeah, but I can't rewrite it 40 times because this is what I've written and that's as good as I can make it.
No,
How did you handle that?
No, I handled it quite well, actually. I'm my own worst critic anyway. So if someone's only got to say, I'm not sure about that, and I agree with you. Yeah, I don't like it either. So I think it originally started.
That's just having no courage in your convictions.
I probably rushed a section. Or I was never 100% sure how to start it. Like I said, I knew how I wanted it to end, but I was never 100% sure how to start it.
Okay.
So the original start was a date. The main character was on a blind date, and you got to know his character that way. And it ended with him being at a kid's birthday party.
Okay.
Because he's a ventriloquist. He's at a kid's birthday party, and one of the kids is horrible in it. And he then sings him a song which has got the worst swear word in it ever.
Country boy. but he cuts that short a couple of times, and then the kids sing it as well as a reply. But just as the kids go to say it cuts to music, and the titles come up. See what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And that's how it started. So it gave people an idea of exactly what this comedy was going to be a bit like.
So if you didn't like that, don't watch.
It wasn't even a C-bomb, was it? In a way, but it is a C-bomb. And it wasn't any more in now.
No.
I'll tell you what, one thing I found that as I was writing different chapters, I was putting some F words in here and there. And I was like, yeah, that's fine. But when you combine those chapters and then you film it, you realise it's like Tourette's. There's just far too many in 30 minutes.
Oh.
And so there was a lot of editing just to get out some F. There's too many, it's far too many. But when you break it down, you break a scene down and write a scene, it seemed all right. Yeah, there's enough F's in that scene, but when you put 40 scenes together, it's just too much, far too much. So I learned a lot from it.
Because I think, like you said, the start of it originally was a date, then it changed into a job interview, then it changed into something else, didn't it? So there were...
You remember that? You remember the job interview and everything?
Yeah, I remember all of these different things. And you sort of went, no, I don't like that.
No, I don't
like that. And then you think, I could do it better. So I think it was good for you to have those as almost drafts, because then the final one, you looked at it and thought, this is what I now want to produce on screen. And this is how I'll look at it and think, this is exactly what I want to do. So I think it was quite good for you that way.
Yeah, it wasn't a bad first go. I know that.
No, it sounds amazing first go.
It was good. It's called the TAB theory, TAB theory.
No plug.
TAB based on the Coke. Do you remember the clear Coke called TAB?
Yes.
Based on that. So two children, one wants to be a ventriloquist, one wants to be a scientist. And the scientist gets inspired by this tab of being clear, and he wants to invent invisibility because it tastes like Coke, but it doesn't look like Coke. Okay. So he got inspired by tab. A very, very vague sort of thing. It could be changed. It doesn't matter. That's what it was about. I forgot where I was going with this. Most of those revisions are you just trying to get to the point more, cutting it short, because you can overwrite. And you just need to get to the point. They usually say a minute a page. So you've got to get a script down to 30 pages, roughly.
Well, going back to the one that you've recently just filmed, that was, I think, when you'd actually put it all together, that was something like 48 minutes long. But they say for a pilot, it should be under 30. So then you have to go back to the drawing board and cut all of this stuff out.
You've got to be brutal. You've got to get rid of stuff that really doesn't help the story. Funny, but doesn't help the story go along. Stuff like that.
Yeah.
Which Robert understood when we were cutting it. We had some not heated discussions, but there was things that I think should be cut, things he thinks shouldn't be cut. There's a really funny scene in his one. But in my opinion, it's really funny. It is really good, and I love it. And it's standalone. It'll be a nice little thing by itself, but it doesn't help the story along. But I understand why he wanted to keep it in. Anyway, we got it down to 30 minutes. But the thing with Robert is he got all the actors to do it for nothing. So when it came to that premiere, there was no way I was going to cut anyone. So the premiere is actually 48 minutes long, 46 minutes long. But we went on stage after that, didn't we? Had a chat with everyone listening and said, eventually it'll be cut down to 30 minutes and some of the scenes would just have to be lost. But that's the way it is. That's why, 30 years on from certain films, you see these deleted scenes.
Yes.
that you think, oh, I wish they kept that in. That's a wicked scene.
Mm.
Yeah.
You just got the time. You just got to make a decision.
But
Mhm.
even now in your head, you watch the tab theory and say, "Oh, I would change that.
Oh.
I would change." He's a nightmare. He
Oh.
sits there and he rewrites it. Even now that he's done and dusted, he even rewrites it again now, don't you?
I paid on Amazon. I paid for Rocky 4 because Sylvester Stallone re-edited it. He re-edited it, and I also watched a film of him re-editing it. And like, why did I do that back then? And he's like, why did I do this? This scene's far better. If I went back to all the tab theory stuff that I've got, which is hundreds of gigabytes, I'd have so much there that I've not used. And I'm like, why didn't I use this one?
You could
But
change
it'd
the whole
drive you-
story.
You could drive yourself nuts doing it. You could drive yourself.
Yes.
I still change my wedding speech. We've been married to 12, 13 years. I still go back and go, oh, I should have done this.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. All right. That's yeah.
17
Okay. That's
minute-
a bit weird. Yeah. Okay.
17 minutes long, my wedding speech, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
17 minutes.
Yeah.
17 minutes. And I brisked over the nice bits about it. Only because I would have broke down a lot.
And he did
Okay.
say that to me afterwards. He said, "Look, I tried, I cried, I couldn't. I'm really sorry."
Yeah.
But yeah, I knew, and I think you even sent me like
I
your
sent you the full
script,
list.
so
And I even
knew.
said, look, I even said on my speech, look, I have to keep things funny because if I don't, I'll just be in bits.
Yeah.
So, hopefully you understood. But then when I film all these other weddings and they're all really nice to the bride.
and you go, "Oh,
and all
God."
I've done is she looks beautiful. Thank you. I love you so much. I did all the nice stuff, but never no detail. And I regret that a little bit.
No, don't. It's funny, but I you don't need to announce it to the world because I know, right?
You know how much I love you. Right. Is there anything else you want to talk about, Jenny? Have we captured everything? Is there any websites, any email addresses that I can have personally? No, I'm joking. That you would like to tell the world?
So my website is weddingsandfuneralsinkent.co.uk. So that's how people can find me. And all my contact details are on there.
Perfect.
No.
One thing I've asked you about this before. We've had a one-to-one meeting before. Is your tattoos. Can you tell us a little bit more about your tattoos?
Oh, yes. I've got them on my hands. I've got them on my feet.
They're
Similarly.
like a henna type style.
They are.
am I
They're
right?
henna styled.
Was it your Buddha days? Or
Yes, definitely. Yeah. So they are, on my right hand, they are in a language called Konkani, which is what they speak in Goa.
okay.
And on my left hand, they are in an ancient language called Pali, which is what most of Buddhism is written in.
Oh.
And in English on my feet. So they are all qualities. On my hands, they're qualities that I would like to have or give.
Okay.
So there's 6 words. They're passion, inspiration, and love, and generosity, wisdom, and equanimity.
Right. Brilliant.
That's so
Yeah.
cool. Because people get tattoos nowadays for anything, don't they? But to actually have them mean something, that's so much nicer than just having a tattoo here.
I know a guy that had a barcode on the back of his neck. And it was for Budweiser. But what if they change it and it's now Sugar Puffs or something like that? It's the barcode for Sugar Puffs. Yeah. Budweiser.
We had a guy at work who'd tattooed his eyeballs once before. And I remember sort of really kind of staring at him a lot. And I said, can I just ask you, what have you done to your eyes? And he said, oh, yeah, I tattooed them. So he'd done them himself.
Oh my God.
How'd you do that? How'd you tattoo it?
You
Did he
can
numb
see
it first? Or?
No.
How can you numb it?
Yeah, just
Well,
straight
I've
in
had
with a
my
needle.
eyeballs numbed before.
So it's permanent. So just the whites of his eyes were dark. So it made him look terribly aggressive, which was the whole point.
Yeah. Well, that's what the
Very demonizing.
criminals and face tattoos. That's what it's all about, isn't it? Gangs. And,
Gangs and clubs, yeah.
That's what it's all about. Looking.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, imagine doing that though.
But yeah, your eyeballs. Yeah.
Oh.
Don't really have many of those.
It must feel like jelly, surely.
Oh. I'd never seen mine. They're so slitty.
Oh,
Yeah.
thank
You
you
had a
so
good
much.
time?
Yes, thank you so much for allowing me to be here. It's been really fascinating to hear everything that you have, both of you, to say, and it's really interesting to hear your points of view. And I really admire your writing abilities.
Oh, thank
As
you.
a writer myself, I'm inspired to hear stories of other writers. So thank you for sharing
I would
that.
love your opinion
with
on it.
me.
And you're welcome back here as well.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, if you've got anything changing, or just come back.
Thank you.
It's up to you.
All right,
No,
thank
we
you
have
very
to
much.
see how she gets on next week.
Do a
Yes.
fitness routine. You could do a fitness thing with us. I don't know how the mics
Well,
are
you're
coped.
going to go to the gym. I'm going to go and do some yoga. So that's what's on my
Perfect.
list next for the
Perfect.
day. So thank you very much.
No,
Brilliant.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
What else was I going to say? No, I think that's it. We've covered everything.
Okay.
Brilliant. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right.
Oh, yeah, that's what I was going to say.
Oh.
When I sensible when it's someone I don't know.
Yeah.
That's what I was going to say.
Was that him on his best behaviour?
Definitely was. Because I could tell some of the stuff that you were saying. I thought, no, don't say it. And I looked over and you were like, no, I'm not going to say it. I'm not going to be rude.
So for all you bride and grooms out there, you know that I can adapt to different environments.
Is that the school teacher in me coming out,
Yeah.
making you feel a little bit? It's my imperious nature.